It's been early moved to second that the minutes of April 28, 2015 and May 5th, 2015 be accepted as written. Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurdahl?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Minutes accepted. Petitions and communications now.
I have a letter dated April 22nd, 2015, for Mr. Ray Metcalf and the Economic. My dear friends of the Economic Development, on behalf of the Diocese of Steubenville, for the recent Economic Development Committee meeting on April 8th. I was first to experience firsthand the goodwill within the conference room. I appreciate the opportunity to visit with you and to provide the local Catholic Church's role in the strong social fabric of our city. As outlined in recent announcements from the north end of the city to the central center to the south end, there is significant vibrant growth and goodwill embedded in our beloved city and county. Please know of my prayers as you continue to exercise the authority entrusted to you for the good of our brothers and sisters, and I ask that you keep me in your prayers as well. With prayerful best wishes to you and your loved ones, I am sincerely yours, Most Reverend Jeffrey M. Thornton, Bishop of Steubenville.
Mr. Metcalf.
Aye. Yes, Your Honor, I just make a motion that this communication be filed in part of the minutes, referred to all members of council, as well as yourself, the law director, and our city manager. Thank you, Your Honor.
Second.
It's been very moved and second that the communication received, filed, made part of minutes, and referred to the council as a whole, the city manager, the mayor, and law director.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurdahl?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Motion carried. Mr. Metcalf, can we refer a copy of this also to Mr. Evan Sturdy, the authority executive director who participated in those discussions also? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Other petitions and communications, Madam Clerk.
None this evening.
We will now move on to ordinance number 2015-31 by the Planning Committee. Ms. Kurdahl, Mr. Johnson, Mr. Davis for its third and final reading.
Ordinance number 2015-31 is ordinance amending ordinance number 1992-20 as amended, the zoning ordinance of the city of Steubenville, Ohio by rezoning property owned by RCVV Inc. located at North 3rd Street and Ross Street, Steubenville, Ohio, from I-3 Heavy Industrial District to I-1 General Commercial and Industrial District.
Before we call for public comments on ordinance number 2015-31, members of council are in receipt of two pieces of communication, one dated May 4th, 2015 from Christopher Petrozzi of the Steubenville Planning and Zoning Commission, and also one dated May 6th of the Planning and Zoning Commission Chairman, Mr. William Hendricks. Hearing no objections, I'll have the clerk read the letter dated May 4th, 2015. Hearing none, please.
Dear Mr. Hendricks, I have reviewed the above reference application for rezoning in conjunction with section 1191.03E of the zoning code, guidelines for evaluation of application for zoning map amendment, and offer the following comments regarding same. The city's land use plan as established by the comprehensive plan identifies proposed future land use at this location as industrial, with commercial downtown land use to the south and west, and industrial land continuing to the north. The proposed project involves rezoning from I-3 Heavy Industrial District to I-1 General Commercial and Industrial District. The I-1 district is a light industrial district which also permits commercial retail uses and is therefore intended to be a transitional zone between commercial and industrial land uses. Land use to the south of this site includes an automobile dealership and an industrial supply firm. To the west, across State Route 7, a mix of residential and commercial uses exists, and to the north is vacant, undeveloped land. Based upon the above, it appears the proposed use will be compatible with neighboring properties. The city has the capability of providing public services to the site. The location is served by existing public water supply and sanitary sewer facilities. The proposed rezoning will not create or contribute to known unsafe or hazardous conditions. The proposed rezoning will not create an isolated zoning district unrelated to adjacent districts, since the I-1 General Commercial and Industrial District already exists to the south of the site. Therefore, this could not be considered spot zoning. In conclusion, based upon the above, I recommend that the Commission submit a positive recommendation to City Council regarding this application for rezoning. Sincerely, Christopher J. Petrossi, Urban Projects Director.
Ms. Curdaw?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to make a motion that we receive this letter and a copy of it be given off to council and city manager in the law record. And be part of the minutes. Thank you.
Second.
It's been ready made in second that communication be accepted and part of the minutes. Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurtall?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Communications accepted. Will the clerk read the letter dated May 6th from the Planning and Zoning Commission Chairman William Hendricks?
Dear members of City Council, at its regular meeting of May 4th, 2015, a public hearing was held by the Steubenville Planning and Zoning Commission with regard to the above reference application for rezoning. After comment and discussion, the Commission voted to send a positive recommendation to City Council with regards to the proposed rezoning, with 3 members voting in favor of the motion, 1 opposed and 1 absent. Attached for City Council's consideration is a copy of the staff report prepared regarding the above. I request that City Council take into consideration the recommendation of the Planning and Zoning Commission with regard to the above application for rezoning. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, William Hendricks, Chairman.
Ms. Curdaw?
Again, Your Honor, I would like for us to accept this letter and also make sure that there is a copy sent to all council, the city manager, the law director, the mayor, the council clerk, and to be part of the minutes.
Second.
It's been ready made in second that the communication be accepted and part of the minutes. Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurtall?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Communications accepted. You have now heard the third and final reading of ordinance number 2015-31. Is there anyone wishing to speak on it? Please come forward, state your name and address. If not, members of council.
Question.
Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurtall?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Ordinance number 2015-31 duly adopted. Resolution number 2015-45 for its second reading.
Resolution number 2015-45, a resolution authorizing the filing of an application for financial assistance for public recreation purposes through the State of Ohio Nature Works Program.
You heard the second reading of resolution number 2015-45. Its third and final reading is scheduled for May 26th. And in talking with our Recreation Director, Mary Beth Seals, that will give her about 3 days to submit it to the estate after the passage, and I will sign it at evening if it's passed by City Council. Ordinance number 2015-50 by the Finance Committee, Mr. Metcalf, Mr. Davis, Mr. Johnson, for its second reading.
Ordinance number 2015-50, an ordinance repealing the existing table of organization of the City of Steubenville, Ohio, and now enacting a table of organization for all employees of the city.
Here is the second reading of ordinance number 2015-50. The third and final reading is scheduled for May 26th. Ordinance number 2015-51 by the Finance Committee, Mr. Metcalf, Mr. Davis, Mr. Johnson, for its second reading.
Ordinance number 2015.
Excuse me.
You want to read it?
Yeah, I want, you're going to read the motion. Yeah, please read the caption. I didn't know what you were telling me.
Ordinance number 2015-51, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2014-75, the existing table of organization of the City of Steubenville.
Mr. Metcalf.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, I'd like to make a motion pursuant to Article 3, Section 3B of the Charter of the City of Steubenville. I move that the rule requiring ordinances and resolutions be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended, and the third reading of ordinance number 2015-51 be waived, and ordinance number 2015-51 be considered this evening for its body's passage or rejection.
Second.
It's been regularly moved and second that the rules requiring this ordinance to be run on a second and third reading be suspended and ordinance number 2015-51 be given its second and third reading this evening. Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurtall?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved, rules suspended. Ordinance number 2015-51, if the clerk will read it one more time.
Ordinance number 2015-51, an ordinance amending ordinance number 2014-75, the existing table of organization of the city of Steubenville.
Is there anyone wishing to speak on ordinance number 2015-51? Please come forward, state their name and address. Members of council, Mr. Metcalf.
Yes, Your Honor, I'm not sure if Tim would like to add some comments behind mine, but this ordinance is just temporary. We do not have a finance director. Dave Lewis, who is the financial accountant, will take over the duties right now as the acting finance director, and this is just housekeeping to pay him what the finance director's rate of pay is, since he will be doing that job. And the way the passage of this ordinance will be is we'll give the 30 days for the citizens to voice any comments on it. That's all I have this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf, and you're correct. This is supported by City Council, by the way, by 6 votes this evening. I don't know if we already received 6 votes. By 5 votes this evening, it will take effect 30 days after the passage. Mr. Bowles.
Your Honor, I have no additional comments. Happy to answer any questions.
I did.
Thank you.
Question. Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurtall?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Ordinance number 2015-51 duly adopted. Resolution number 2015-52 by council as a whole.
Resolution number 2015-52, a resolution authorizing and directing the city manager to make application for a grant from the Ohio Development Services Agency, ODSA, Governor's Office of Appalachia, GLA, to be used towards funding improvement of the intersection of State Route 7 and University Boulevard as a continuous flow intersection to improve access to the Veterans Memorial Bridge, ODOT project number JEF-7-17.29, City project number 2010-107, and to execute contracts as required.
Mr. Metcalf.
Yes, Your Honor. I'd like to make a motion pursuant to Article 3, Section 3B of the Charter of the City of Steubenville. I move that the rule requiring ordinances and resolutions be read on 3 separate occasions be suspended, and the second and third readings of resolution number 2015-52 be waived, and resolution number 2015-52 be considered this evening for its body's passage or rejection.
Second.
It's been regularly moved and second that according to Article 3, Section 3B, that the rules for the second and third reading be suspended. Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
And by the way, this will take 6 votes.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. DiLoretto?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurtall?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Rules are waived. Would the clerk please read once again resolution number 2015-52?
Resolution number 2015-52, a resolution authorizing and directing the city manager to make application for a grant from the Ohio Development Services Agency, ODSA, Governor's Office of Appalachia, GLA, to be used towards funding improvement of the intersection of State Route 7 and University Boulevard as a continuous flow intersection to improve access to the Veterans Memorial Bridge, ODOT project number JEF-7-17.29, City project number 2010-107, and to execute contracts as required.
Before I ask for public comments on resolution number 2015-52, we do have a piece of communication. It was an email from Dana Soder from the Omega organization who's requesting this and indicated to us the importance of us passing this by May 18th or before. Hearing no objections, I would like the clerk to read it into the record. Hearing no objections, it is so ordered.
Thank you for sunshining the resolution stating the city's commitment to the State Route 7 and University Boulevard Interchange Project. The ARC application requesting $300,000 in grant funds will substantially decrease the amount of the city's local match required for the project, and council's adopted resolution must be included in the ARC application. I have obtained letters from BHJ and ODOT citing their monetary contributions to the project, and once I receive Steubenville's resolution, the application will be complete. The ARC application approval process can be timely, and I respectfully request council's adoption of the aforementioned resolution by May 18th so that there will not be a delay in ODOT's intended sell date for the project. Thanks again for all of your cooperation and assistance. Dana K. Soder.
Hearing no objections, it will be ordered into the record. Hearing no objections, it is so ordered. I think we can all agree the importance of this particular project, especially with the recent announcements from the Franciscan University and the new entrance to our community, and this will just complement it and have easier access. Quite frankly, this $300,000, if you can recall, about a year ago, there were some discussions I had at an Omega meeting searching for this funding. This will go directly to the city's local share. So it is a rather extremely important resolution to be passed by City Council this evening. With that being said, is there anyone wishing to speak on resolution number 2015-52? Please come forward, state your name and address. Wrong members of council. Mr. Mayfair.
Yes, Your Honor. Just a couple things here. Add on to your comments. But thank yous to BHJ, because that project, there's a lot of work that they did. So I thought we should appreciate them. And I also like to thank Mike Golak as our engineer for going after these grant dollars to lessen what we have to pay as a city. So those are my two thank yous. And that's all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Thank you. Is there any other member of council wishing to speak on resolution number 2015-52?
Question.
Roll call.
Mr. Paul?
Aye.
Mr. Villamagna?
Aye.
Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Dilreddit?
Aye.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Ms. Kurtall?
Aye.
Mr. Metcalf?
Aye.
So moved. Resolution number 2015-52 duly adopted. That will conclude the ordinances and resolutions before City Council this evening. We will now move into the report of committees, and we'll start off with Mr. Paul.
I have one item, Your Honor. Right here. Paper. I'd like to call for a Safety and Health Committee meeting on May 26th, and I'd like to call that at 6:30 p.m. On that Tuesday, sir. Discuss our ongoing problems and some street issues. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paul. The clerk will facilitate the proper notices for Safety and Health Committee meeting on May 26th at 6:30. We will continue on with committee reports to Mr. Bill Magna.
Nothing to see.
Thank you, Mr. Bill Magna. Mr. Davis?
Yes, Your Honor, Park and Rec Department, just another thank you to Mary Beth Sills for getting the pool house done. We had a little reception there last week. Unfortunately, I didn't make it, but it was a success as well. Also, the summer food program is set to begin on June the 8th. The locations you can find out through the Martin Luther King Center. Just call down there to tell you where the locations are. And the pool is scheduled to reopen again this year on June the 6th. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. And the summer food program is an extremely important program for the youth. Believe it or not, during the summer months, that is sometimes the only meal that our youth receive. So we're very thankful that we're provided the resources to conduct that. Mary Beth, since it's an extremely important program, do you recall off the top of your head the locations we had? I know we reduced down to, I believe we have 7 locations.
There are 5.
5?
They are Steubenville Park, North End Park, Murphy's Field, Martin Luther King Recreation Center, and Simpson United Methodist Church last year.
Thank you, Mary Beth. We'll now continue on with the committee reports to Mr. Diarra.
Larry, I have no report. My battery's dead.
Thank you, Mr. Dioretto. Mr. Johnson.
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Ms. Purdoll?
No report, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Purdoll. Mr. Metcalf?
Yes, Your Honor. See, my work, Sean. Sometimes.
How's your battery?
That's it, my battery's good. I just want to alert council, we're working out a day and time that we can meet as with a joint finance utility meeting. Tim and I will be getting together later in the week, but I just wanted everyone to know, we will email you with that and also notify the media. Discussions will be, one, potential safety levy and timeline for that. And the second thing will be continuing our water and wastewater account guidelines and potential policy changes that we have been discussing a few weeks ago. So, and I think anything else that we need to be aware of on that.
One item that, and we discussed it a little bit briefly, but I have asked Mr. Baird to work on modernization of our sanitation collection operations, and he'll have some initial findings that he would like to share with us. So if we could include that under utilities, I'd appreciate it.
I understood that. I knew there was something else and I forgot. And, Your Honor, we will notify everybody once we get this date set up at the end of the week. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Metcalf. That will conclude the report of committees from the members of council. We will now move into the report of the administrative officers, and we'll start off with our city manager, Mr. Bowles.
Thank you, Your Honor. The report of administrative officers, everybody on council should have a copy of that. I'm not going to go through all the items, just maybe a couple items of note. One thing that, and I will have a little bit more to say about this item when we do the utility meeting next week, but I can say, and I'm very pleased that with the residential meter part of our meter replacement program, that's the phase 2, this phase began in January of this year, and at this point in time, we have over 2,500 meters have been replaced, and about 539 appointments have been scheduled. What that means is typically those are going to be replaced within the next 2 weeks or so. And so at this point in time, the city is roughly 36% completed with phase 2. So I'm very pleased to say we're over the 1/3 mark. Also, we anticipate this program or this phase will be completed in the probably near the end of the 3rd quarter of this year. And another item, while I'm still reviewing some of the financials, but I can say that we're going to have some positive news on water revenue, on the water revenue side, that I'll be able to report next week. So I don't know what other variable has changed other than the meters, but so I think that perhaps we might be seeing a little bit of maybe a little bit more than a little bit of an impact from our meter program. The other item that I wanted to bring up or highlight, a couple items that I wanted to highlight. One item that I know Councilman Paul will be happy with, I think we'll all be happy with it, but did get news from the finance department. They reported that the city has received from Group Retro Program, which is affiliated with the Bureau of Workers' Compensation, an amount of $55,311.30 to be deposited in the safety fund. So
Thank you.
that was
Thank you for that update.
very happy to receive that, and very happy to deposit that in the safety fund. The city was notified by Ohio Public Works Commission that it has been approved for a $199,000 grant for the Mall Drive, 14th Drive roadway improvement project. The project is scheduled to commence late July of this year. The lowest and best bid, as determined by the administration, was submitted by Shelley and Sands. The amount was just under $326,000. There is a letter that is attached to this report that goes into detail on that project. The engineer's estimate was a little over $329,000. So the recommendation from our engineer is that the project be awarded to Shelley and Sands for that base bid, and this would be consistent with Ordinance 2015-8 that we passed earlier this year. So unless there's any questions or concerns from council, we will proceed with that project.
Hearing no objections, the city manager will enter into a contract with Shelley and Sands of Raymond, Ohio, for $325,935.35 for the repaving. Hearing no objections, it is so ruled.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Council. I'm also pleased to report that the city received what is considered the lowest and best bid for the North End Streetscape Fixture Upgrade Project. I believe that contractor was John Russell Construction, Chris, and the amount was $68,284. This funding, or this is, Chris, I believe, totally funded through CDBG. And again, there is additional information in your packet, Council, regarding this. We would like to proceed with that contract consistent with Ordinance 2015-6. So, hearing none, we'll be happy to do that.
Hearing no objections, the city manager will enter a contract with John Russell Construction for the sum of $68,284 for the North End Streetscape Fixture Upgrade Project. Hearing no objections, it is so ordered.
Thank you, Your Honor. And on that, Chris, did you want to discuss just a little bit briefly what the some of the improvements would be? I think that would be appreciated.
Yes, over the years since the project has been completed, there's been numerous trees that have been either struck by cars or removed. There's been many fixtures that have been damaged by vehicles. There's been one fixture that was stolen, and so what this project will do is go in and replace all those fixtures with new fixtures. So it'll be a complete project, and you will no longer see the bases with missing lights, etc.
And at this point, Your Honor, I have no other items to bring forward, but I'd be happy to answer any questions. If there's any, I appreciate being able to provide a report.
Thank you, Mr. Rowland. We'll continue on to our Assistant Law Director, Mr. Mastros.
I have no report, Your Honor. Thank you.
That will conclude the administrative officer's report. Once again, we'd like to thank the department heads for attending tonight's council meeting. Before we move into miscellaneous, and we have one signing in, I do want to take this opportunity because I think it's starting to be an extremely exciting time for our community. I had the opportunity of speaking, or at least one of the speakers at Rotary today. There's been a lot of activity. I know several members of council attended the dinner last week, which was a great event showcasing some of our assets. Last night, I had the opportunity of attending the SRG group, the Steubenville Revisation Group's meeting. But when I'm out there talking about the community and just looking at it, and reflecting on the investment that the Diocese of Steubenville is making in our south end, let alone what the public library did. The recent groundbreaking and announcement of the Franciscan University and the development there on the Green Strip. The legislation that was passed by City Council this evening on the improvements to the entrance of that area, State Route 7 and University Boulevard. The repaving work that is starting now on State Route 7 from University Boulevard roughly, the corporate limits, out to 213 on State Route 7 that needs it. The rezoning that was passed this evening of the what we consider the old foam or paperboard mill property and the possibility of a development of a hotel at that site. You see dirt flying at the intersection of Washington Street and 7th Street with the Advance Auto going up. The legislation that was approved tonight, and as we move forward on the repaving out the west end at the Fort Steuben Mall, the plans that we have for the development and improvements of the intersection at Lovers Lane and Sunset, the improvement projects on Lovers Lane and all, but there's a whole host of activities happening within our community that should make us all to be very proud and to want to say that we're proud, Steubenville proud here in our community. But we're getting ready to enter into our summer months, and those are always challenging for us. So we got to continue to be positive about it, because believe it or not, this coming Thursday will be the first in the summer concerts starting right across the street at the amphitheater. We'll be blocking off 3rd Street. This will be the official announcement for our car show Thursday afternoon at 3 o'clock. The car show, I believe, is going to start closer to 4 o'clock, but the street will be closed down at 3. And then the concert will start later on that evening. And we'll continue those concerts free to our citizens and any visitors to our community through the month of June and July. And of course, we got to tip our hats off to the Fort Committee, to Jerry Barilla, Judy Bratton, and their team for organizing, and all the sponsors for organizing those summer concerts. But when we look, and it's coming up real soon, in the month of June, we start off with the Frontier Days, the Ohio Valley Frontier Days, the 4th Festival. We move in then 2 weeks after that, the second week, for the Greek Festival. That goes right into the D. Martin Festival and into our hometown festival. Then that wraps up the month. We go into July with the 4th of July celebration, and once again that will be at Bellevue Park on July 4th. And we're planning the activities. I know Mary Beth's working on them, also our recreation director. But we're planning those activities again, which will include the senior citizen luncheon again. But it's exciting times. But let me tell you, I just want to reflect real quick, and I'll stop. But this past week, we had some interested developers within our community. And I'm not really at liberty to say who they were and all, but they took note of all the positive things that are happening. They were very excited. They were here about 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago. And we were impressed with them. They already did a development that I can't refer to right now, but we will later on. That's very successful within our community. But they were excited about the things that were happening in our community. I had an opportunity, along with the city manager, Mr. Baldwin, along with our urban projects director, Mr. Petrozzi, and our economic development director, Evan Skirty, to do a little walking tour of the downtown area, because that's where they're focusing on their possible development. And to tell you the truth, it couldn't have happened better. As we were walking, and they were taking notes of possible developments and what buildings and all, we happened to be walking down 4th Street. And before you know it, coming out of the appliance store is one of the rebars. Hello, Mayor, how are you? Positive. Go down a few more steps. Unfortunately, Mike, you weren't at your window or around, but we walked by and they thought it was a great display, and some of the older items you have in the window and all, mentioned that and all. But then we got to Anna K's, and Peggy Zendi comes out, full of energy, talking about, you know, her specialties in the clothing and what have you. Lo and behold, Jerry Brillo comes out of Frank and Jerry's. And enough said about Jerry. He always has good words to say. It started about the fort and the concerts happening and what have you. And we ended up at Peter Marks, the bookstore. And I was describing to him about how that's utilized as a coffee shop for Franciscan University students visiting it and all. They left this community with a real good feeling. We received an email thanking us for taking the time and the opportunity, but more importantly, how impressed they were. And they know that this wasn't staged. It's truly the true feelings of our citizens. Let me tell you, when I received that email thanking me and thanking the rest of us for taking our time out, it was an extremely good feeling. Because I know a lot of times we like to talk negative, we want to think of things in a not so positive light. But that was a great day, and I look forward to an outstanding summer. With that, we do have one signing in under miscellaneous, and that's Ms. Curley.
Yes, sure. Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to say once again that the community has stood up quickly. I thank everyone who participated in the T-shirt drive. Once again, I asked, and they came in, the money came in quickly, and we are past what we needed. So we will be already starting for next year, and I want to thank all of those in this room who contributed very much, and I will be making a public letter to the editor to make sure that I include everyone in the thank yous. So I just want to say again that the T-shirts are for the T-shirts for grads. If you're not familiar with the program, it started a couple of years ago, and what it is each graduate from Steubenville High School and Catholic Central High School will receive a T-shirt with both of the school's logos and with our saying says where you always have a home, Steubenville. And it's encouraged them to learn here, earn here, and stay here. And so it's encouragement for them to know that they always have a home here in Steubenville. We want to make sure that they know that we are Steubenville proud, and they should be too. So thanks for everyone who donated, and thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. That will conclude the miscellaneous reports from the council. We will now move into public forum. Is there anyone wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Hello, Your Honor. Can you hear me? Can you hear me this time?
Yeah, it should be.
I can use it out. Thank you. Good Lord.
You never needed a microphone before.
I know, right? I'm practicing. I'm Bree Silver, and I was at 76 North Street Rear. I'd like to thank Mary Beth for the excellent job you're doing with the Plymouth Case Center. And I'm hoping I can receive some more information, ward for ward, about the 4-H program. That's supposed to be starting up pretty soon. In the JFK building, I seen a flyer about that.
I don't have any info on that, but I can get it for you.
Can you get it for me? I'd like to thank City Council and everybody coming out for the groundbreaking ceremony at the Lighthouse Haven. Our ward is very excited. It's going up. We have also started working in the Lakeville neighborhood, neighbor secure garden as well. And I'm just excited about the growth as well in the Phase 1 project. And the sisters are too. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to City Council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
My name is Robert Steubenville, and on behalf of future of the city and my family, I'd like to thank the Planning Commission, Mr. Petrozzi, for working to get this zoning request approved. I'd like to thank all council. I don't think some council members are even aware we're living in this city. But starting with tearing down half of the north end of the Steubenville, North Wheaton, Pittsburgh steel plant, we tore down 2 acres of buildings of the old Blum Park piece of property, the biggest eyesore in the community. We went north and invested in a building called the Federal Paper Mill. And on my watch, people forget a young man lost his leg behind that building on the railroad tracks. Another individual working that plant was life flighted after he went into the property and fell in a 30-foot pit. And through all those problems I've tolerated, spent about $700,000, part of a $155,000 fine for the Environmental Protection Agency cleaning up that property. So I'd like everyone here in this council chamber to understand that real estate has had a lot of things done to it to make an improvement for this community. And we're going to continue to clean it up. 2,600 feet of riverfront we've cleaned up. We're going to continue to clean it up. And I just hope you can help me get along through this project. And once again, I want to thank you for your positive vote. And I'm sure you're going to be real happy here in the next 6 or 7 months. Because we're going to develop 3 or 4 other businesses there and maybe a little marina, and we'll move on. But again, I want to thank you all. And just think about the past and what it took to get there too. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak to City Council or City Business? Please come forward, state their name and address.
Good evening, I'm Russell Boggs, I live at 307 Woodlawn Road, Steubenville, Ohio. And somebody please warn me at a 2-minute limit, because unfortunately I have a lot to say. I agree, yes, there are a lot of very good things going on for our city. I'm also speaking for 250 other citizens for Steubenville, and we are quickly growing. Our intention is to make our city better, but unfortunately, we're highlighting a lot of problems, a lot we're seeing. One, and I found out by Mary Beth that there was a meeting, apparently Mr. Davis and Mr. Bowling, about Peace of Hyde Park. I did not get a notification or see a notification, but I believe you've made a grave error, first in closing the park, second in keeping the park closed. I welcome you all to join me on my front porch, directly across the street from that park. You are going to see small children, and now school is getting out. They are playing in the roadways. That's a dangerous intersection. There is a pile of rubbish across the ground. We have not improved their safety. We've made their life dangerous. I don't know if you've tried to go through that fork in the road there, but nobody obeys the speed limit or the stop sign. A child is going to be ran over. The same children have lived there since the shooting. They still live there. The crime has not changed. I know, Mr. Musi, in your State of the City address, you said numbers were down. Officers like Joel here are working very hard. The other officers on the street are doing a hard job. But there is an echo through the city if you speak to your citizens and business owners. When you call the police department, it is a failure, not due to the officers. The officers on the street are working very hard. But Mr. Johnson received a call from one of my neighbors who also came to me, who was told off by a dispatcher. The exact same dispatcher I spoke to while living across the street from Peace of Hyde Park, as rocks were being thrown at my children by high school students. I'm not a picky father. This was a 2- and 3-year-old child. I was told by the same dispatcher that the officers were too busy with the football game. I believe we need an audit of every phone call that has come into that police department. You will find out the citizens are reporting crime. They are jumping up and down to report the crime. I also spoke to an officer who told me this is my beat and I am not receiving these calls. This is an issue. $2 million in Watergate. Is that the correct number, I believe? A waitress.
Continue.
Okay, a waitress who supports her family of 6 on tips went to the water department with $195 to pay her bill. $130 in cash, $64 in change. That is how our waitress is paid. That is a taxpayer of this city. She was turned away, told to go find a Coinstar. We will not take your change. When you're $2 million in debt, you pick a penny up. You don't turn it down. So it looks like another major issue there. There are many good things going on and many bad things going on. I don't understand, and I only found out there was a meeting by Mary Beth, and she's a great woman. Matter of fact, please let me know so I can get you volunteers down for the food program for feeding them during the year, because our school kids need food. But there's a lot going on in the city that's being ignored. And I am serious. I invite you all to sit on my porch. But be prepared. As the sun goes down on Hilltop, it gets scary. I watched the heroin dealer. I counted her 23 times walking in front of my house, in view of one of the cameras. That I was also informed, and I will not say his name, but a very good officer, that only 50% of these cameras are functioning and do not think they're being watched. That's coming from one of our veteran officers. We've got a problem we need to address. We can't fix outside of our house until our own house is won. Now, I found out from Mary Beth today, part of the problem with the mowing of Pizza Pie, or I like to call a lot formerly known as Pizza Pie Park, of why the lower section isn't being mowed, and yes, it was up to my waist. It's because the Park and Recreation Department only has a large lawnmower working right now. I have no problem. I'll go mow. That's not a problem. Because right now it's the worst looking lawn on Woodlawn Road. That's sad. And it's not her fault. It's sad she doesn't have a lawnmower. So, I mean, and I see Mr. Bowen watching me. I know it sounds like I'm really picking on you, but one of my neighbors sat in your office and asked for answers. Even asked you to pick up a phone and said, can you call and find out when this will be done? You told him no. Just like, and I'm not trying to upset you, just like if you do not believe this one, go back to WTOP 9 News. Last year, your statement of Pizza Pie Park is I have spoken. Well now, 250 strong and growing, we are speaking. You need to listen, sir, please. We love our city. We want our city to be beautiful. We want our city to be safe. But you can't ignore us. When a call went in to the police department about Pizza Pie Park, about a drug deal going on, Dispatcher D, no name further. What crimes are you committing? There are signs all around the park, no trespassing. Isn't that crime enough? I don't understand. So hopefully, and I know you won't answer in this forum, but I hope answers are forthcoming because the citizens want to help this city. We are speaking. We're not afraid to mow. We're not afraid to get out and pick up trash. I'm getting ready to go buy a gallon of paint to paint the walkway that goes back and forth to Big Red Stadium because there's gang graffitis, curse words, Nazi symbols. As you said, you took a walking tour of the city, Mr. Mushi. Take a walking tour of the neighborhoods. See where your citizens live. See what they're living in and begging for help. And now I do have a question that I hope one of you guys can answer. I've got my lawn mower. There's many very tall lawns in our area, obviously abandoned houses. I won't get arrested if I mow their front lawn so it looks better, will I? I guess no answer. That's what I've kind of grown used to. But I'm offering as a citizen to mow abandoned maintenance lawns in my neighborhood to make it look more beautiful, and I'm getting a blank stare. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bowen, I know you want to make a couple of comments, but I would like to inform Mr. Boggs on a couple of issues. You made some serious accusations. I take those very serious. We will follow up with those comments, especially with the dispatcher and the patrolman that told you he will not respond.
No, not that he did not respond, sir.
Just so you know that this meeting also is being recorded.
Oh, yes, it
We have
is.
our videos here.
But sir, that was incorrect, not that he
You
would
know what,
not
we
respond.
had a lot of patience listening to you. If you could just hear me out for a minute.
Okay, I just didn't want to be misquoted, I'm sorry.
Because I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Steubenville. I take a lot of pride. I happen to live what I consider in between both hilltops, right on top of Washington Street. I'm very familiar with both hilltops, grew up on both of them. So I do know what's out in the community. But putting that all aside, maybe I'm a little naive. Maybe you have all the answers. We are willing to listen to your answers, but they have to be accurate and true.
And they are,
Mr.
sir.
Baldwin.
Thank you, Your Honor, and I think as most folks here tonight would attest, I rarely, I have great respect for citizens' comments and the public forum. I think that's actually one of the better parts of our meeting, because that's true democracy. But I really have to take strong exception with Mr. Boggs' comments and some of the things that, inferring what I said to individual citizens about in the way that I said, I may disagree with individuals, Mr. Boggs, I may have a different opinion, but my opinion is always based on, in my professional ethic, is to do what I feel is best for the community that I serve. So, sir, I really have to take strong exception that I certainly don't recall and ever saying anything like some of the comments you said to different citizens. I believe that in any meeting I had with them, I was very respectful. I listened to them and hopefully provided, if we did disagree, I provided what I thought was the reason why I felt that that was the best for the community. So I again, have to strongly disagree with your comments, Mr. Boggs, on my discussions with citizens. I'm not quite certain what meeting you're referring to. There certainly was public meetings, Parks and Rec talked about, the board talked about Pizza Pie Park. So there's been discussions on the park. My opinion, I think, is well known, but it's based on what I think is best for the community. And I don't have any votes. They don't give the city manager any votes, but hopefully my professional opinion is based on what I feel, again, is what's best for the community. That's I feel very strong about the service that I provide. So, Mr. Boggs, I invite you to come to my office anytime. I would be happy to talk to you. I think we need to talk about some of the accuracy of your allegations. If you have a question about something that's not working for the city, let me know. I'll find out, and I'll tell you the truth, sir. I will tell you if we have something not working or is working. And if there's something not working, we'll go out and fix it. So,
Please put your email address.
I'm very frustrated with the statement, sir, but I'd be happy to meet with you and hopefully we can address your concern.
Can you do one thing to help us communicate?
Is there anyone else wishing to speak to the city council on city business? Please come forward, state their name and address. Not Mr. Metcalf.
Only thing
Mr. Davis.
only thing I wanted to say is, I'm sorry to Miss, oh, she's gone, Miss Elder, that there is a 4-H starting. I was going to answer her yes, so she asked a question, but she's gone. Sorry, I didn't realize she was gone.
She had her hand up earlier.
I'm
to
sorry.
make sure she had knowledge.
That's all. Thank you, sir.
There's no further business from any other members of council, then I make a motion that we adjourn this evening's meeting. Thank you.
Been already moved to second that we adjourn. Roll call.
Mr. Hall?
Aye.